The atmosphere within Research Outpost Hermes 7 was usually calm, broken only by the occasional hum of diagnostic equipment and the low murmur of scientists in discussion. Nestled in the shadows of Jupiter's outer asteroid belt, it was considered one of humanity's quietest and most isolated deep space installations, a small circular facility, tethered to a lopsided rock designated TX-311. But silence had a strange quality today. It felt tight, heavy, like breath being held. Dr. Elena Corvin felt it before she saw it. A subtle vibration beneath her boots, a whisper in the airlock seals. She looked up from her sensor console and narrowed her eyes. The station's sensors had just logged a spike. An electromagnetic noise patterned, deliberate, and not human. "Chief," she called out, her voice steady but tight. "We've got an anomaly, low frequency, high structure. Looks like it's broadcasting through the asteroid's surface." Chief Operations Officer Malik shambled over, still cradling a nutrient pouch. "Probably a solar flare bouncing off the iron core. This rock's full of junk signals. Check it yourself," she said, tapping the waveform on her display. It was rhythmic, layered, like a song without melody. Malik took one look and straightened. "Run a comparative scan. Cross-reference known languages." Elena already had. Not a match, but there's syntax in the timing. Another alert lit up on her panel. Motion detected. "What now?" Malik muttered. She flicked the external cams onto the main view screen. 3 ships. No human signatures. Each of them was shaped like a crescent fang, blood-red hulls glinting in the dim sunlight. The image cut through the air like a blade, chilling every word in the room before it could be spoken. These were not Confederation vessels, not even black market rigs. Malik's face drained of color. "Initiate full lockdown. Alert all personnel." Elena was already moving, sending it now. Throughout the station, emergency klaxons activated. Researchers scrambled, lights dimmed, replaced by red emergency illumination. Metal shutters slid into place over viewports. Elena stayed at her post, fingers flying across the console. "Still transmitting," she said. "They're broadcasting directly through the rock." "They're trying to mask the signal," Malik said. "Or bounce it, triangulate something." Elena's screen blinked again. "They've launched drones. Small ones, too fast for cargo units. They're heading for the surface." The comms unit on her shoulder hissed. "Corvin," came the voice of Commander Tesher, the outpost security lead. "We've spotted movement outside hatch 3, dozens of them. They look like spindled insects with plasma cutters." "Unauthorized breach attempt," she replied, holding her breath. "They're not here to trade." "Understood. Defense teams are in position. Evacuate science personnel to the core shelters." Elena turned to Malik. "They're not just scavengers." He nodded grimly. "They knew where to look. They wanted the station." Then the lights died. Every screen flickered, then went black. Backup power surged through the walls. Emergency lighting returned, dim and trembling. But the signal, the strange waveform, hadn't stopped. It had changed. "What's it doing?" Malik asked. Elena stared in horror. "It's a countdown." On the external feeds, Elena could see the drones swarming over the surface, cutting into the outer rings of the station with surgical precision. Tesher's voice crackled again over the emergency channel. "We're engaging them now. They're resistant to ballistic fire, switching to magnetic rounds." The feed cut with a scream and a burst of static. Elena's hands clenched the edges of her console. "We have to get that data out. If this is a first contact hostile or not, the Confederation has to know." Malik opened a secure port on his console. "Uploading everything we've got to the quantum relay." "Another alert. They're jamming it," Elena whispered. "They knew we'd try to send Detath Draxian warships." Cast looming red shadows over the moon's battered terrain as they repositioned for a second strike. The initial engagement had not gone as expected. One of their cruisers still lay smoldering in Mare Tranquillitatis, its remains half buried in the gray dust. The humans, though technologically behind, had drawn first blood. Inside Lunar Command Dome Alpha, Colonel Alan Foster stood at the central tactical interface, surrounded by a swarm of officers and digital projections. Sweat glistened on his temples. Despite the cooled command air, the enemy was adapting, but so were they. Status on the railgun emplacements, he asked. Lieutenant Decker, hunched over a secondary console, responded immediately. Back online. Coil temperatures stabilized. 5 out of 6 are operational. Fire the forward 2 on my mark. Target that lead destroyer's underbelly. Use terrain bounce calculations. I want them surprised. Aye, sir. Outside, the Earth fleet's rear flanking ships broke their formation, racing around the dark side of the moon. From their hulls launched another wave of maintenance pods, reprogrammed into missile-guided disruption units. Nanobots poured from the pods, clinging to Draxian armor, corroding joints, worming their way into sensor rays. Back on the Draxian command vessel Ractorian's Claw, High Commander Hrethzern slammed a clawed fist into the tactical console. Fools, you said they were primitive. Advisor Valix quivered under the commander's wrath, his eyes narrowing. They were. They should be. No race this young should master tactical misdirection. Yet they have. Hrethzern gestured to the smoking wreck of his cruiser on the view screen, and we are bleeding for it. Valix turned toward the communications unit. Shall I initiate Phase 2? The commander nodded. Unleash the Ravagers. Show them fear. Moments later, from the underbellies of 3 remaining Draxian warships, dark pods detached and fell silently toward the lunar surface. Sleek, spike-ridden, and blacker than the void. They were hunter units, automated berserkers bred for infiltration, terror, and eradication. Lunar sensors picked them up immediately. Incoming objects. Multiple. Size to meters. Trajectory. Suggests direct ground incursion. They're not missiles, Colonel Decker said, voice rising. They're deploy drone intercepts, Foster barked, and scramble infantry squads Beta through Delta to the east tunnels. They're sending in a second wave, in the corridors of Dome Gamma. Sirens screamed as soldiers ran to intercept. The invaders, Sergeant Naomi Kaur, plasma rifle slung across her shoulder, led her squad through the access tunnel under the crater wall. This vibrated from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Remember, short bursts only. These things don't flinch, don't bleed, she said. Aim for the joints and sensors. Let the drones soften them first. Ahead, the corridor burst open with a muffled detonation. From the breach, a Ravager emerged. It moved on for jointed legs, a glowing red core at its center, and curved blades for forelimbs. Its metallic hide shimmered with adaptive camouflage, flickering like broken glass. The squad opened fire. Rounds slammed into the Ravager, staggering it back, but it kept coming. Then, from above, a combat drone dropped through a maintenance vent, unleashing a short-range EMP pulse. The Ravager froze mid-lunge, convulsed, and collapsed. Mark and retreat, Core commanded. That's one. We don't wait around for the next one to adapt. Elsewhere in the colony, scientists, engineers, and civilians worked side by side. Dr. Olivia Johnson, chief of engineering, pulled a fusion conduit from a sealed cabinet in Habitat 3. Her assistant, Malik, barely 18, flinched at each distant explosion. You're not military, he said. Why are you still here? Johnson's hands didn't stop. Because this is my home. And because if I leave, no one finishes the backup generator alignment. Malik hesitated, then reached for the wrench set. What do you need? She smiled. Faintly, a second pair of steady hands. Let's get to it. Above, Earth fleet was pushing its advantage. The rear attack squadron led by Commander Elena Braddock launched a series of coordinated strikes. exploiting the weakened flank of the Draxian formation. With the alien sensor systems blinded by nanobots and decoy pulses, Braddock's squadron tore through their defense. "We're not giving them breathing room," Braddock said through comms. Group Delta switched to anti-hull munitions. "Strike low and fade." Her own ship, the U's Valiant Spark, slid between two larger Draxian ships, its magnetic hull clinging tight to the larger ship's blind spots. Explosives detonated, carving out holes in the enemy's outer layers. Inside the Draxian command ship, chaos brewed. "We've lost sensor command," cried the navigation officer. "They're inside our comms relay. Internal temperature rising, nanet breach in cooling system. Evacuate forward command," Zern snapped. "Transfer tactical control to auxiliary decks." "No." A new voice echoed from the back of the bridge. Ambassador Tolvek of the Confederation, still aboard as an observer, stepped forward. "You have brought destruction upon yourselves by underestimating the humans. Withdraw, High Commander, or they will break." Outside the moon's surface, where darkness swallowed all but the glare of distant Earth, the Draxian fleet trembled. One of their primary warships had gone silent. Its systems scrambled from within, not by any weapon they could detect but by something more insidious. Commander Rhea Solas, aboard the human stealth cruiser Umbra, grinned from the shadows of her control bay. Her hands danced across a translucent interface, guiding data worms into the Draxian systems like phantoms. Through a haunted ship. "Relay breach confirmed. Multiple core commands redirected. Communications splintered." "They're panicking," she said into her headset. On the other end, Admiral Catherine Wilson's voice crackled back. "Good work, Umbra. Begin Phase 2. Open the back door for our strike group." "Acknowledged. They won't know what hit them." As Umbra fed a corrupted battle map to the Draxians, their fleet reacted exactly as planned. Several warships shifted to defend what they believed was an attack vector on their vulnerable flank, leaving the actual exposed side wide open. Back aboard the UES Dauntless, Admiral Wilson didn't hesitate. "Group Sigma, execute the burn and punch maneuver. You've got a 30-second window. Get in, strike hard, and retreat behind the moon's shadow." In a synchronized ballet, 6 Earth vessels rocketed forward, using the gravitational pull of the moon to sling around and strike with pinpoint railgun blasts. Their projectiles didn't vaporize their targets. Instead, they aimed for the hull seams, weapons mounts, and propulsion exhausts. Precision over brute strength. The Draxians, masters of raw power and forward assault, had never imagined a species that could weaponize misdirection and gravitational physics. 2 of their vessels went dark, smoke spiraling into space like shredded banners. Inside Lunar Dome Alpha, Colonel Foster received the sensor feed with grim satisfaction. "Direct hits, minimal losses. Tell Braddock her timing was flawless." Lieutenant Decker nodded, and Sir Captain Rodriguez's makeshift turret took down another Ravager cluster. "South tunnels holding." Before Foster could reply, a new figure entered the room, a tall woman in sleek Earth Navy armor, helmet under one arm and soot on her cheek. Captain Braddock herself. "You flew in?" Foster asked, surprised. "We needed a better comm relay on the surface. I figured I'd bring it myself," she said with a shrug. "Besides, I wanted to see this insanity firsthand." Foster chuckled, then turned to the main screen. The battle was shifting, not ending, but turning. For the first time since the Draxians' arrival, their formations were fracturing. Their data was corrupted, their flanks exposed, and their confidence shaken. Yet even as humans tasted the edge of victory, a darker realization loomed. "They haven't deployed everything," Braddock said, watching the screen. "Their troop carriers are still holding back." As if summoned by her words, the largest Draxian vessel, black and gold, shaped like an obsidian scarab, began to shift. Panels peeled away, revealing an internal hangar glowing with green bioluminescence. Within it stirred the next threat, Draxian shock troopers. "They're going to attempt a full planetary breach," Braddock muttered. "They want to break morale." Foster replied, "We've proven our tech can match them, so now they'll go psychological." Down in the medical dome, Dr. Helen Ward prepped the emergency trauma beds for another wave. She moved like a ghost, calm, silent, precise. Around her, assistants worked with fading equipment, manual tools, and flickering monitors. A nurse nearby whispered, "We're down to last-gen stim packs." Dr. Ward didn't blink. "Then we use last-gen medicine. We adapt, like the rest." Above the dome, the defense grid flared to life. A perimeter net of low-orbit satellites, armed with electromagnetic disruptors, snapped online. One of Earth's oldest systems, long retired, now reactivated. "They'll jam their landing vessels if they enter the net," said Foster. "Let's see if the old bones still got teeth." As the Draxian shock troopers' ships broke from the command vessel and began their descent, the satellite net unleashed a lattice of pulses. Two transports wobbled, lost trajectory, and plummeted into a lunar ridge, colliding in a blast that lit up the dark side. But four others broke through. They're heading toward Crater Delta. "Nearest dome, Habitat 4, Braddock called. "Out." Foster cursed. "That's civilian." He tapped his wrist. "Comm. Core, report." From the echoing tunnels beneath Habitat 4, Sergeant Naomi Core's voice replied, "We've already redeployed from Tunnel 9. I've got 20 volunteers. With me, miners, engineers, a janitor with a modified leaf blower. We'll hold." "Negative. Fall back to no time," she said. "They're landing now. Just stall them, right?" Foster hesitated. "Yes," he said finally, "stall them. Make them think you're more than you are. They'll figure that out eventually. Not if you're good at pretending." The Draxian drop vessels crashed into the lunar crust like meteors, kicking up clouds of silver dust. Their hatches hissed open, releasing monstrous warriors armored in organic plating, eyes glowing with rage and hate. Core didn't wait. "Hit them. Now." From behind a boulder field, a mix of human defenders opened fire with repurposed mining lasers, modified nail guns, and explosive-tipped bolts. One Ravager fell instantly, a plasma bolt through its head. Another stepped on a pressure mine and erupted into shards, but the others kept coming. Behind cover, Core gritted her teeth. "That all you've got?" she muttered, then lobbed a pipe bomb, manually lit with a lighter. It tumbled into the mass of Draxians and exploded with a dull roar. "Keep falling back. Never in a straight line," she yelled. "Let them chase." Ghosts from above. Colonel Foster watched the skirmish on a secondary feed. He knew Core's position wouldn't hold for long. The Draxians were brute strength incarnate, but she was grit, and sometimes grit could bleed giants. "They're adapting," Braddock noted grimly. "They're learning from us," Foster nodded. "And we're learning from them." Suddenly, Decker gasped. "Sir, new signal, not Draxian. Coming from deep orbit. I think it's Confederation." Foster's brows lifted. "Put it on screen." A tall, blue-skinned figure with bioluminescent lines on his face appeared. "Ambassador Tolvek, of the Galactic Confederation. This is Tolvek of the Confederation. Human command, we come not to interfere but to advise. The Draxians will not stop. They believe this war proves their superiority. If you win here, they will only escalate." Foster frowned. "So what are you suggesting?" Tolvek's voice remained calm. "You must end this decisively, leave no doubt. Otherwise, they will test you again. And next time, it will be Earth." Admiral Wilson appeared on a split feed. "Then we give them what they fear most." "And what is that?" Tolvek asked. "Proof that we aren't fighting for conquest. We're fighting for home, at the far edge of the moon." A deep thrum began. One of Earth's prototype fusion lances. originally meant for asteroid mining powered up for the first time in decades from Umbra. Commander Solas redirected the corrupted Draxian signals toward the Lance's coordinates. The trap was ready. 3 remaining Draxian cruisers, sensing what they thought was a new escape corridor, shifted course toward the far side of the moon into the kill zone. Foster spoke quietly. "Fire the Lance." A beam of pure white erupted, slicing through 2 cruisers before they could react. The third veered away, scarred, smoking, and running. In the stunned silence, even the Draxian command ship paused. Inside Habitat 4, Core and her survivors looked skyward as the blast lit the lunar horizon. A cheer rose, ragged and tired but filled with fire, from Earth's orbit to the deepest dome on the moon. Humanity had done more than survive. They had fought, and they had won for now. The Draxian command vessel, once a symbol of galactic fear, hovered just beyond the moon's shadow, its hull smoldering from residual radiation. Inside, Commander Vokar bellowed in fury, his mandibles clattering with rage. They used a mining weapon on warships, primitive savages. His second-in-command, Jexel, flinched under the verbal onslaught. "Commander, we underestimated them. Their tactics were madness," Vokar spat. "No species should willingly burn their own technology to claim a temporary advantage." "And yet they did," Jexel said, quieter. "And it worked." Vokar stormed to the central viewport, his clawed hands curling. "Then we must return with full strength. No more probing. No more pirates. We burn their moon, then their Earth, then their legacy." Jexel hesitated. "Sir, there are whispers in the Confederation. Some want to intervene. And the humans, they fight with fire because they have nothing else. But fire spreads." Vokar turned, eyes narrowed. "Then let it spread, and we will extinguish it." He slammed his fist on the console. "Prepare for full planetary invasion. Protocols across the stars." The war was about to escalate. Meanwhile, on the lunar surface, silence had returned, but it was not peace. Colonel Foster stood before a memorial wall hastily erected. Near the crater's edge, names of the fallen scrolled across a holographic panel, shimmering in the low lunar light. Braddock approached, arms folded. "The last of the wounded just got shipped back to Earth. Everyone else is staying to rebuild." Foster nodded, eyes still on the list. "They'll be back." Braddock didn't need to ask who. "Probably in force." Foster turned to her. "The Confederation knows. They're watching. That might be our only edge now." Braddock's lips tightened. "Unless they decide we're too dangerous and join the Draxians to preempt us." "You really think they'd do that? They've fought whole species over less." Before he could answer, his comm crackled. "Colonel, incoming transmission. Priority 1, it's from Earth." In the control dome, Foster leaned over the console. Admiral Wilson's face appeared, more stern than usual. "We've confirmed Draxian fleet mobilization near the Saturn Gate. They're assembling for a full-scale assault." Braddock whistled low. "That's not a raid, that's an armada." Wilson nodded. "Earth is activating global wartime protocols. All orbital defenses are online. Lunar and Martian colonies are in high alert. And Colonel, this time, you're not just holding the line." Foster frowned. "What do you mean?" "You're part of Operation Mirror Spear." He blinked. "That's not on any registry. It wouldn't be. Mirror Spear is our first. Joined up with non-human allies. The Confederation has decided to support us, at least some of them. They've seen enough." Foster exchanged a glance with Braddock. "Who exactly are we working with?" Wilson smiled thinly. "A splitter of their defense council, led by Tovek and 2 others. We're forming a coalition strike fleet. You'll command the forward lunar group. Braddock, you'll lead the advance recon." Braddock arched an eyebrow. "So I'm back on the Umbra?" "No," Wilson said. "You're on something new." The hologram flickered, shifting to display a sleek, obsidian black cruiser larger than the Umbra, faster and marked with both Earth and Confederation insignias. This is the Solstice, hybrid tech, part human, part alien, built in secret. Over the last 5 years, Braddock blinked. I didn't even know we had the tech for that. You didn't, Wilson said, but some of our scientists got help. 2 days later, the Solstice emerged from Drydock orbiting Mars. It moved like a shadow, faster than light should allow. Inside, the bridge hummed with unfamiliar energy. Touch screens gave way to bioreactive surfaces. Helm controls pulsed like muscle tissue. Braddock stepped onto the command deck and stared in awe. What is this? Tolvek's voice came from behind. A gamble, one that may change everything. She turned. And why give it to me? Because the humans we've watched, the ones who survived, fight not because they desire conquest, but because they remember pain, and you remember more than most. Braddock nodded slowly. So what's our first mission? He extended his hand toward the navigation table. You're going to intercept the Draxian fleet near Saturn. Learn their formation, disrupt their cohesion, and if possible make them fear. She smiled grimly. That's the easy part. Back on the moon, Colonel Foster oversaw the last of the weapon installations. Massive Gauss platforms now ringed the surface, hidden under regolith and lunar dust aimed toward the stars. Every dome had been reinforced with electromagnetic shielding. Civilian tunnels were converted to escape pods. More than preparation, it was defiance. A Confederation envoy arrived that evening, tall, four-armed, translucent skin that shimmered in low gravity. It introduced itself as Shalrik, a strategic, observer and linguistics specialist. You are adapting faster than any race in known history, it said, observing the battle data. It is unsettling. Foster laughed. We don't have time to be slow. Shalrik watched the orbital schematics. If you win this war, Earth will not remain Earth. You will become something else. We already have, Foster replied. And that's what they're afraid of. Out past the orbit of Jupiter, in the depths of Saturn's rings, the Draxian fleet moved like a storm. Hundreds of warships, destroyers, troop carriers, and bio-titans arranged in phalanx. They gleamed red and gold, a force designed not for conquest but for extinction. Hidden in the rings, the Solstice lay in wait. Multiple bogies, the helmsman whispered. Their lead ships are mapping trajectories toward Luna. Braddock stepped forward, eyes sharp. Deploy the shroud drones. Scatter their sensors. The ship unleashed a spray of interference units, microscopic devices that confused enemy mapping. By mimicking ship signatures. Now, she said, slip past their edge and transmit a decoy beacon near Titan. Make it look like an Earth fleet is there. I want their rear guard pulled. The maneuver worked. 3 destroyers peeled off toward the false signal. Braddock smiled. Now target the communication relay hub ship. Let's send them a message. The Solstice's ventral bay opened, revealing a pulse torpedo launcher unlike anything Earth had ever fielded. The weapon locked on and fired. The torpedo didn't explode. Instead, it latched onto the relay vessel and flooded it with fractal signals broadcasting the human response from the lunar battle directly into every Draxian channel. They were forced to watch their own defeat over and over. Panic spread. Braddock's voice echoed across the command deck. Let them see who they're dealing with. On Earth, news of the coming Draxian invasion had leaked. For the first time in centuries, the planet unified not through fear, but through readiness. Streets quieted, factories shifted to defense production. Civilian fleets were repurposed into orbital guardians, and in every school, in every public space, broadcasts of the lunar battle played on loop. Not to stir anger but to remind. Humans were not born for war, but they learned fast, and when they fought as one. The Draxian armada surged toward Earth like a tidal wave of fire and metal from Saturn's edge. The fleet unfurled across the Black Sea of space, flanked by bioships, dreadnoughts, and hundreds of support craft, their hulls pulsed with crimson light, armed for annihilation. Inside the lead warship, Commander Vokar surveyed the stars. Earth glinted in the distant pale blue, unsuspecting. Prepare the kinetic launchers. Target Luna's habitat clusters. We begin with fear. Jexel hesitated. Commander, there are new variables. The humans' tactics are evolving. The ship Solstice is a ghost, Vokar snapped. One ship cannot stall an armada. But even as he spoke, alarms flared. On the periphery of the fleet, 6 dreadnoughts flickered from the tactical display. Gone, report. Vokar barked, interference. Commander, the sensor officer replied. It's Solstice. It reappeared near Rhea. Deployed EMP scatter drones and nanotorpedoes. They've blinded a third of our sensor grid. Vokar slammed his clawed fist on the command chair. Then we strike now. Push through. No more delay. Onboard Solstice. Braddock's voice was calm as she paced the bridge. How long until? They breached the Mars defense perimeter. 14 minutes, replied the helmsman. She turned to Tolvek. That's not enough time to regroup. Then you must fracture their cohesion. The alien strategist replied. Their strength lies in unity. Break the rhythm. Braddock nodded. Then we split them up. She turned to her tactical officer. Prepare the mimic relay. A dozen stealth pods launched from Solstice's undercarriage. Each one broadcasted a false signal. Human fleet signatures spread across different vectors. The Draxian ships, momentarily panicked, shifted to intercept what they thought were surprise attacks. And then Earth struck back. From behind the moon, Earth's defense fleet emerged. Dozens of heavy cruisers, retrofitted asteroid miners, and sleek pulse corvettes surged into formation. At their heart stood the UDF Legacy, Earth's oldest and most battle-tested battleship. Admiral Catherine Wilson stood at its helm. All vessels, engage. The battle over Earth's orbit ignited in a maelstrom of light and fire. Draxian ships closed in, their weapons superior, their shielding more advanced, but the humans countered with misdirection, coordination, and sacrifice. Near Mars, Braddock led Solstice straight into the Draxian command wedge. A suicide run, by all metrics. Target their quantum relays, she ordered. Cut their ability to communicate. Blind the beast. The Solstice darted through enemy fire, narrowly dodging plasma bursts and razor drones. Her hull groaned, shields flickering, but they made it. Now, Braddock said, her voice steady. Solstice fired a gravitic rupture cannon, a weapon built with the help of Tolvek's people. It didn't explode, it folded space. The command relay vessel disappeared in a silent implosion, collapsing into itself. At once, the Draxian command chain faltered. Across the fleet, confusion spread. Orders lagged. Units disengaged. Protocols conflicted. And Earth pressed the advantage on the moon. Colonel Foster stood within the central command dome, eyes locked on the tactical feed. Send in the kinetic drones, he ordered. Target those who stray from formation. Dozens of spike-shaped satellites launched from lunar silos, each one a self-guided mass driver tipped with hardened uranium. They tore through the Draxian outer ring like falling stars, piercing hulls, severing limbs of bioships, scattering debris across the black sky. Redirect power to the shield dome, Foster added. We hold the line, no matter what. Outside, the lunar surface lit up with detonations. The moon quaked as railguns fired in unison. Emergency crews rushed between domes, evacuating wounded, patching hull breaches, refusing to surrender an inch. Colonel, shouted a technician, there. Landing troops. Foster gritted his teeth. Let them. We've trained for this. Troop transports descended onto the far side of the moon, releasing waves of Draxian infantry, multi-limbed, armored and chitin, armed with plasma carbines. but waiting for them was Resistance Company of miners turned soldiers, led by former engineer turned Commander Riley Tso. Light them up, Tso said. Molotov drones, jury-rigged laser traps, and basic flanking tactics whittled down the Draxians quickly. The human defenders fell back only when necessary, drawing the enemy into narrow corridors of lunar rock-killing zones, where even primitive weapons were devastating. One defender, wielding a homemade launcher, fired a fusion-coated spike at a Draxian heavy gunner. The creature fell, screaming in tones no human could comprehend. But the humans understood victory. High above the battlefield, the Solstice's bridge was bathed in red light. Hull breaches, atmospheric leaks, fires in the secondary engine bay. They were a whisper from death. Braddock clutched her side, blood seeping between her fingers. "We've got one shot," she said. "All power to the rupture cannon, Braddock." Tolvik warned, "The ship won't survive another discharge. Neither will Earth if we don't stop their flagship." The targeting array locked onto the Draxian warbust, a massive bioship protected by living armor and shield parasites. Fire. The cannon pulsed. The sky split. The warbust didn't implode, but it cracked. A rift tore down its spine, exposing inner decks. And into that breach, a final wave of Earth fighters surged, led by Lieutenant Greg Martinez. Martinez's squadron dove into the breach, unleashing missiles, pulse charges, and rail rounds. The bioship shuddered. Then it detonated from within. In orbit, Draxian forces broke formation. Their command vessel gone, their warbus dead, and their strategies unraveled. They scattered. Some fled. Some fought to the last. But the tide had turned. On Earth, sirens ceased. In Luna's domes, civilians emerged from shelters. On the Solstice, fire crews dragged Braddock from the bridge, her breathing shallow, her eyes glazed. But she was smiling. "It worked, tell Foster. We did it." 3 days later, Earth hosted the first official meeting of the Confederation Coalition. Not on a flagship, not on a neutral planet, but in Geneva. Ambassador Zorax stood before the UN Assembly, his voice reverent. "Today, the stars do not look down upon primitives, they look upon equals." Colonel Foster stood beside Braddock, her arm in a sling, her body battered, but alive. "We were never fighting to conquer," Foster said. "We were fighting to be left alone." Zorax nodded. "And now you shall never stand alone again." Across the stars, systems once blind to Earth now watch with respect and caution. Humanity had not only survived, it had changed the rules. Epilogue. In a field outside New Toronto, a girl released a paper lantern into the sky. It drifted upward, glowing softly. Her father knelt beside her. "What's it for?" "It's for them," she said. "The ones who didn't come back." He nodded. "They'd like that." As the lantern rose, thousands more joined it from cities across the world. The stars above were no longer indifferent. They were watching. And for the first time in galactic memory, they watched in awe.